I'm Jet from inthirdperson.com, and welcome back to another Q&A session. If you're interested in getting your question answered, look for the post. I'm going to put it over here. I will post in the YouTube community section looking for questions. Put your question in here, and maybe you'll get answered just like this one. Wargasm509 asks, what is the best counter for Ogerbolt? Now, Ogerbolt, Raging Bolt with the Teal Mask Ogerpon has become an incredibly popular deck. It's an incredibly strong deck, but it is not a perfect deck. We saw it got a number of day 2 placements, but it did not make top 8 at NAIC, and I do think it is a deck with some flaws. And I think one of the best ways to look for answers like this when we ask, hey, what's the best counter for this, is that we can look on play.limitless TCG, and when you click on a deck, you can actually see its matchup spread. And these are across all of the Limitless tournaments, and just kind of see how well these decks do. So let's go and just go from the top here. So you'll click on the decks, you'll click on the deck you're looking for, and then you'll click on matchups, and you can see what their win rate is against a bunch of different decks here. So let's go and zoom in a little more so that we can see this a little better. And we go down the list, and the first one that's like really under 50% is Gardevoir. This one's at 34.16%. And I get this because Gardevoir primarily attacks with single prizers. You have Drifloon that can one-hit KO a Raging Bolt, even if it's got a Bravery Charm on it. You've got Mimikyu to wall up, and Cornerstone Mask Ogerpon, you can use it technically to hit through Mimikyu, though it's going to take a long time to put that energy on. So I think the Gardevoir deck is a bad matchup because you're constantly up trading, or like it's a good matchup for Gardevoir because you're constantly up trading into multi-prize Pokemon with single prize Pokemon. Another potentially good matchup here, Lost Zone Box. Lost Zone Box beats it almost 60% of the time. Again, another deck that has a lot of single prize attackers to offset the prize race. Dragapult is not so bad. Lost Zone Box variant. Again, we've got the single prize element of the Lost Zone engine with the Comphase and the Sableye to skew the prize race there for the Lost Zone Dragapult's players' favor. Charizard's it's pretty much even at this point in time. Snorlax Stall is a bad matchup for Raging Bolt. You trap one of the Pokemon that can't really attack or is slow to attack, and then you just win. And then some other ones here. Pidgeot Control, it does have a bit of an advantage here, as well as Quad Iron Thorns is kind of interesting to me. I don't think this one's a guarantee, but Iron Thorns does have that ability where it can shut off Rulebox Pokemon ability. So this slows down your Teal Mask Ogerpons, but it doesn't stop Sada's vitality. So if you're not able to take enough prizes fast enough with Iron Thorns, you can still get wrecked by a Raging Bolt. And then one more here, Chien-Pao, Baxcalibur. Oh, you're actually winning this quite a bit. Never mind. Reborn Reaper asks, how did you get into the Pokemon TCG? I have not actually been in the scene for too long. I started in the spring/summer of 2021. It was just before Chilling Reign was about to come out, and I've been a fan of Pokemon for years, and I've been a fan of tabletop games for years, but I'd never played the card game before. And it wasn't until we were like in the midst of the pandemic, my wife and I were on the couch and we were watching an episode of the Try Guys. I'll put a thumbnail for it over here if I can find it. And it was an episode about Pokemon cards. And after we watched that episode, my wife and I were like, hey, why don't we try playing Pokemon? We love tabletop games. We've got nothing to do right now. We can just order something online and then go pick it up from the store. And so we did. And our first purchase was the 2-in-1 bundle with the Venusaur V deck and the Blastoise V deck. We played it, had a great time, and things just kind of spiraled from there. And yeah, from there, I bought the Battle Academy. I bought a booster box of Chilling Reign. I started playing PTCGO, and that is kind of my descent into Pokemon TCG madness. I definitely want to hear your stories, though, about how you got into the Pokemon TCG. So make sure to tell us your origin story right here. Night Shadow 2223 asks, I struggle to prize mapping, so how do you prize map? This one's a really interesting question. It's a very important question because prize mapping is an integral part of the Pokemon TCG experience. And the general idea around prize mapping is to find the most efficient way of winning the game. And usually it's taking 6 prizes. If you're playing a control deck that isn't trying to take prizes, that is it's not technically prize mapping, but it is the same kind of concept of like finding the most efficient way to win a match. And it's going to be very specific from deck to deck, what deck you're playing, what deck your opponent's playing, what cards are on the board. And that prize map can change from moment to moment. So I do have a couple of examples here that I've pulled up from some of my own videos. And here's one just talking about prize mapping in a general sense, Gardevoir versus Raging Bolt EX. Now, the most efficient way to beat Raging Bolt as a Gardevoir player is to put yourself in a position where you can one-shot any of their Pokemon. And so Drifloon is the GOAT here, where with a Bravery Charm, Drifloon can hit for 300 damage. If you've got the Monkey Dory, you could potentially do even more than that, but you don't need to go more than 290 against Raging Bolt Ogerpon because they have Bravery Charm instead of Ancient Booster Capsule more often than not. So being able to hit with Drifloon lets you pretty much take 6 prizes in 3 to 4 turns. You'll need at least 1 turn to set up. It might take you more than 1 turn to set up, but minimum 3 attacks on 3 multi-prize Pokemon is enough to win the game. So your general game plan with this is Drifloon with the charms and take 3 prizes to win the game. Now, it doesn't always work cleanly that way. You might have to stall for time with a Mimikyu, or in this scenario, Gardevoir EX can one-shot a Squawkabilly if need be while also taking 2 prizes. So whatever that scenario might be, trying to find the most efficient way to take 6 prizes is the way to go. The second example is an interesting one, and I got asked about this in the comments of this video as well. So here's the scene. I've got 4 prizes remaining. My opponent has 3 prizes remaining. I have an Iron Hands in hand, and the YouTube commenter asked me, like, why did I not put Iron Hands in the active to take 3 prizes? And I said there are lots of ways of prize mapping and different routes to victory, but my rationale for not using Iron Hands in this scenario, I ended up not using Iron Hands. I put some energy on the Minccino to give myself an opportunity to have 2 Chinchinos in play, is that my goal here is to take 4 prizes in 2 turns, right? I was going to be able to take 2 prizes off this Regidrago and then take 2 prizes off of any of these Pokemon. And for me to do that in 2 turns, I would need an attacker that can one-shot anything on the board right now. I could put Iron Hands in play and knock out this Regidrago. I could take 3 prizes, but from there, I don't have a guarantee that I can win on the next turn at that point. So, like, let's say they Iono me or they take out the Chinchino, and then I'm just stuck with the Iron Hands in play. Iron Hands in this deck at most is doing 120 damage because we don't run any other lightning energy. It's just the 1 legacy energy that can power this up, and at which point I would need 3 attacks to win the game. However, if I focus my efforts on getting 2 Chinchinos rolling, at which point this one can take this KO, and then either of these, when I get the setup, can take a one-shot on the Ogerpon or the Mew EX. So that was my rationale for not using Iron Hands here. Just because I can take more prizes in the immediate turn doesn't necessarily mean that it's the fastest route to victory. And these are all sort of scenarios that you kind of have to practice and play through and figure out the mapping of. And in this particular instance, I felt like having 2 Chinchinos set up was going to give me a better shot of winning in 2 turns than going with Iron Hands and taking 3 prizes and then hoping that I can take the 4th and potentially 5th one on a consecutive turn. This last one was really weird, right? Espathra EX is a weird deck that can force you to attach extra energy to yourself to attack. And it also ran Mimikyu, and I have Meowscarada EX, and Meowscarada cannot directly attack Mimikyu. However, I can snipe it off the bench with Bouquet Magic, but based on the way this match played out, and I can put a link to this match so you can watch how it played out, I felt like it was not the play. I was going to put myself on odd prizes, and I wanted to concentrate my efforts on taking out the Espathras and take a 2-2-2 prize map. And in this scenario, I'm behind on 2 prizes. I need to take 2 prizes, or take 4 prizes. My opponent only needs to take 2. And I was able to set up this weird board state. And where this ended up going was very cool, because I was able to create a position where I could take 4 prizes in one turn. So you're going to see here, I'm going to Bouquet Magic, drop 30 on the Espathra on the bench, and then move some damage with Alakazam from the Espathra in the active to the Espathra on the bench. There's 2 prizes, and then I'll take these 2 prizes here, and then I will swing into the Espathra in the active with Scratching Nails for 200 damage. I should have just done it. I wanted to set that up just in case, but really I swing for 200 damage, and then the game is over and I take 4 prizes in one turn. So yes, the general idea of prize mapping is to find the most efficient route to winning the game, and it's going to depend on what deck you're playing, what deck your opponent's playing, and it really comes down to experience and being able to analyze the board state constantly and find the most efficient way to win. And sometimes taking more prizes isn't necessarily the best way. One of the examples was that Iron Hands one, but another one that I meant to show here and I forgot to pull up the video for is Chien-Pao. If your opponent is playing Chien-Pao and they only have 1 Frigibax or 1 Baxcalibur on the board and they don't have a second Frigibax, definitely target the Frigibax or the Baxcalibur, because while you're only taking 1 prize, you are taking their energy acceleration away from them, at which point that deck completely fails to function. So whether it is taking the most prizes or taking the right prizes, make sure to keep that in mind when you are prize mapping in hopes of taking that win. Prof Tree asks, what are some cards I could incorporate into Ancient Box to help counter the meta? Ancient Box was actually a decently popular play at NAIC this past weekend, and it did okay. Here's an example that I found on Twitter from Just Druid, who got 42nd out of 2,600 players. Oh man, even my face is covering that. Hold on, let me cover my face here, or hide my face here real quick so you can see. And again, it's still cutting off here, but yeah, just shout outs to Just Druid for the great performance with Ancient Box. And I've seen a couple builds. I know Zach Lesage over at the Shuffle Squad also played Ancient Box and did well at the tournament. But let's use Drew's example here as some of the changes you could make to your Ancient Box deck. And one of them is taking out Koraidon. I've seen more and more of this. I've actually taken out Koraidon out of my paper build of Ancient Box, and I have replaced it with the Walking Wake as well. Now, there's no water energy in this deck, so we're not attacking with Walking Wake at all. We are simply using this as discard fodder, and also if it gets stuck in the active, it only takes 1 energy to retreat instead of 2. You really want to just attack with Roaring Moon all the time. So that's kind of one of the big changes made here. And the other big change here is the inclusion of Secret Box instead of Awakening Drum, which a number of Ancient Box decks were playing in the past. And Secret Box lets you discard 3 cards and search for an item card, a tool card, a supporter card, and a stadium card. So being able to grab all of that is nuts, while also discarding 3 ancient cards to help boost your damage output. You're also grabbing, a supporter card, which could be Sada's Vitality, that accelerate 2 energy, plus draw 3 more cards, plus you can get a stadium like the Pokestop to help draw even more cards. You can grab a tool card such as Ancient Booster Capsule to then boost your HP. Like, it's an absolutely insane power spike with the Secret Box. So I think that there are some really cool techs in this list, and Ancient Box might be in an okay spot going forward, especially if Gardevoir continues to be popular in the current meta, where Gardevoir absolutely dominated NAIC, and Ancient Box has such a good matchup into Gardevoir. So keep these particular techs in mind. And another one here is 1 copy of Professor's Research. I thought about it first. Like, at first I was like, why would you put that in there? It's not an ancient card, but you do have the potential to discard more than 1. You could discard a whole bunch of ancient cards while refreshing your hand to draw 7 new cards. So I do like Professor's Research in this deck as well. Plastic Mylar asks, how should Chien-Pao be adapting to the new format? 70 HP basics are one thing, sure, but the deck gets walled out by Cornerstone Mask EX. Palkia V seems like a decent include, but is shy of one-shotting it. I just got into the game and your channel's been super helpful. Keep it up. First off, thank you for the kind words, Plastic Mylar. And second of all, I would not worry too much about Cornerstone Mask Ogerpon. It's not that popular at all. And on top of that, the deck runs, Chien-Pao always runs at least one copy of Canceling Cologne. And most of the time we think about Canceling Cologne in terms of canceling Manaphy's ability, but you can also use Canceling Cologne to cancel out Cornerstone Mask Ogerpon, allowing Chien-Pao to one-shot it. And Chien-Pao did okay. Here's Jared Grimes's build from NAIC. They stuck with the Chien-Pao and got 129th place. Let me go hide my face again and give them the proper credit. If you are a fan of Chien-Pao, definitely check out Jared Grimes on YouTube. He is one of the best resources for Chien-Pao information on YouTube and is like one of the top players for Chien-Pao as well. And the deck doesn't really change too much. There's no Palkia in this list. I think most Chien-Pao decks don't play Palkia, and I tend to agree with that thinking. And there are some 70 HP. These Frigibaxes back here might actually be 60 HP. The two to the left might be 60 HP. I can't remember. But regardless, I don't know if we have to worry so much about the 70 HP Pokemon. I hate running 70 HP Pokemon in Chien-Pao because the retreat cost is worse. And on top of that, Dragapult didn't do so hot at NAIC. Like we saw, like I've got the meta spread pulled up here for day 1 and day 2, and I think a lot of people were really scared of Dragapult and switching to 70 HP Pokemon, which are oftentimes worse. And Dragapult was only the fifth most popular deck, only 5% meta share, and then in day 2 it actually slipped a little bit. Now it's all the way at number 6 at 4.83%, and it did not make top 8. I don't know if it made top 16. I'm recording this before we've seen the final results, but Dragapult kind of flopped a little bit. And I'm not sure that everybody has to be teched out for the Dragapult matchup. If Dragapult continues to be more of a niche deck, maybe we just go back to 60s and just deal with the Dragapults as they arrive. So other than that, Chien-Pao might be okay, especially if Dragapult does not become the monster that we thought it was going to be. Chien-Pao has a pretty good shot of continuing to stay meta relevant. But at the time of this recording, we don't fully know everything. I think Chien-Pao is probably still fine. You have good matchups into a bunch of the other decks. Dragapult is the scary one. But again, if Dragapult does not become the best deck in format, then we could be okay. Caleb Mullins 3577 asks, how do you decide if your deck wants to go first or second? This is an excellent question, and it has changed over time. When I started playing the Pokemon TCG in the Sword and Shield era, you almost always wanted to go first because you wanted that opportunity to get that first big hit. But it really depends on a deck by deck basis, and even based on what your opponent is playing, you might want to change where you start to prevent your opponent from getting the position that they want. So let's go and run through the limit list deck lists here and just kind of go through some examples of decks and talk about first or second. I think Raging Bolt is a deck that definitely wants to go second. The general rule of thumb is if your deck needs time to set up, then you want to go first. If you are a deck that can start hot, then go second. And Raging Bolt is a deck that definitely can go second, where you can accelerate a ton of energy on the first turn and get your attack off on the first turn. So Raging Bolt definitely wants to go second more often than not. Lugia is a deck that pretty much always wants to go first. You want the opportunity to get your board set up, get the Archeops down, and like it's always been kind of antithetical because you can't play a supporter on turn 1, and that would help Lugia a lot. But now that Carmine is out and it's in Lugia decks, you can play that supporter on turn 1, giving yourself more opportunities to set up. So Lugia always wants to go first so that on turn 2 you can pop that V-Star power, get the Archeops on the board, and start smashing. Gardevoir is generally a deck that wants to go second. You will want to try and get your Arvins and your TM Evo, and you want that ability to attack first so that TM Evo can get you 2 Kirlia on the board so that on your second turn, you can just go straight into Gardevoir EX and start smashing. Dragapult, I have not played enough Dragapult to say which one you want to play, whether it's first or second. I can see cases for both, but yeah, would love for the Dragapult experts to weigh in and say which is preferred on that front. Lost Zone Box is a deck that definitely, I think it tends to go second. So you've got first dibs on playing Colress. You are be able to attack first with the Cramorant, so Lost Bolt probably leans towards second. Charizard Pidgeot, this can kind of go either way, where if you go first, you have the opportunity to attack first with Charizard swinging for 180. Sometimes that's going to be enough. Sometimes it's kind of a waste of a turn. And going second, you do have the opportunity to set up your board a little better. And losing the first prize is not actually that bad as Charizard, because that boosts your damage output on your main attack from 180 to 210, and then with other damage modifiers like Maximum Belt, you could potentially return KO a multi-prize Pokemon in a scenario where normally you wouldn't have been able to. So Charizard Pidgeot can kind of go either way. Dragapult Lost Zone Box probably wants to go second for the same reason Lost Zone Box wanted to go second. Snorlax Stall, I guess it kind of, I don't think it matters too much on that one, to be honest. And Miraidon probably tends to go second because you do have the opportunity to attack first if you can get electric generators, if your electric generators run hot. So I would say Miraidon's not necessarily bad going first, but you probably want to go second. So yeah, your general rule of thumb is that if your deck needs time to set up, then you'll probably want to go first. If you can get a big attack off on the first turn going second, then you'll probably want to go second. Andres Papa asks, I'm trying to settle a bet with a friend. We argue about if it's pronounced Frigibax or Frigidbax. Is there a D in the word? Please help. So I am not the expert on pronouncing Pokemon names. I get roasted all the time for my pronunciations of Pokemon names. So instead, we are going to turn to the experts on the internet, and let's go. I've already got this pulled up. How to pronounce Frigibax from how to pronounce Pokemon names. Let's listen together.
Frigibax.
That does not sound like a letter
Frigibax.
D. Oh, sorry. One more time.
Frigibax.
So there it is. Frigibax. That's going to do it for Q&A this time around. Thank you so much for watching, and thank you to everybody who submitted your questions, even if I wasn't able to get around to them this time. I really enjoy making these videos, so yeah, keep up the, thank you for watching, and yeah, keep sending in those questions. I'll put out another call for questions in the coming weeks, and we'll do this again. But for now, I got to get going. You can find me on all the things: YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, and Instagram at InThirdPerson. You can find me on Twitch at InThirdPerson, where I stream the Pokemon trading card game every Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time. And check out the website, inthirdperson.com, for more articles and videos on video games, board games, and other nerdy pursuits. So until the next one, I'll see you later. Bye-bye. Uh-oh, I hit the wrong button. We're out of here. Bye-bye.